Hi, welcome to Horizons. My name is Ernie Hall. This program is a public affairs program produced by Ohio University Southern. It is produced entirely by students here in our electronic media program. We have a very special guest for you today, Brad Bear. He is one of the organizers for Wizardfest. But before we get to that, we need to update you with what's going on around campus with OUS Update.
Hi, I'm David Carey, and this is OUS Update. OU Southern hosted 2 free mental health workshops aimed at helping employers deal with crisis in the workplace. Brian McGlone has more on this.
You may find them to be what we codependent on another person.
The Community Mental Health and First Aid Program helped local business leaders learn of the potential mental health issues in their workplaces.
If a person's in crisis, it helps me to know what questions to ask, what to do, how do I deal with it in an appropriate way.
Leaders now have an action plan to guide coworkers who are in crisis.
Encompassing understanding of what's really going on with people, and so that way you can meet them where they are.
Everything has been very useful. His presentation gives us great examples of different scenarios you're going to be in.
Participants left the workshop feeling better prepared to handle specific situations in the workplace.
It's about getting a look at the whole picture.
And in a crisis, it's going to be a good resource to help everyone that's in need.
The workshops were a collaboration with Shawnee State University and were funded by a grant from the USDA. Southern has more events and workshops coming up, and here's Brian McGlone with your OUS calendar.
On Wednesday, October 9th at 10 a.m. in the Mains Rotunda, wear your pink and join us for the Think Pink Breast Cancer Awareness Challenge as we walk around campus to show our support. On Thursday, October 10th, from 11:30 a.m. to 12:20 p.m. in the caucus room of the Academic Center, we will host Stop the Stigma, Understanding Mental Health Needs. A group of health professionals will discuss mental health care needs and local resources. It's also Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and the Clothesline Project will be displayed in the Schaefer Courtyard October 14th through the 18th. You can also decorate your own t-shirt in the Student Resource Commons Success Center. Interested in local resources? Our resource fair brings financial institutions, fitness centers, and other external programs who want to meet you on Thursday, October 17th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the Mains Rotunda.
And that's what's going on around campus. For OUS Update, I'm David Carey.
And thank you for that update. That's what's going on around campus. Right now, what I want to do is get to our special guest, which is Brad Bear. He is the organizer for Wizardfest that's coming here in Ironton. Brad, it's nice to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, first thing I want to talk about before we get to Wizardfest is you actually did my job here at Ohio University Southern.
For many years.
Yeah, and you were actually one of my instructors.
I was. You were a different person then.
I was a different person. You actually mentored me, and that's one of the things that I kind of wanted to get to is, us kind of talking about the mentorship. And what was it like when you held my position here?
So for me, what had happened, I had gotten out of, for me what had happened was I had left Atlanta. I was producing television for Turner Broadcasting. And that was kind of my first gig out of college, and I did that for a few years. And then when I came back up here, I was very young, and so I was very close to the students' ages. And we had a lot of non-traditional students, so I actually half or more of the people that I was teaching at the time or working with were older than me.
I was one of those
you're
students.
You're one of them that's a little bit older than me. And so that was kind of intimidating at first. I remember the first time I taught a class, I had some of the students in the back going, breathe, breathe, because I was very intimidated by that. And so, but I quickly got to the point that it's like, okay, there are some things that I know that I can share with people. And so teaching has always been kind of in my blood in terms of I like learning constantly, and I like sharing what I know. And I love conversation. And so for me, the university environment was fantastic as an employee. It was a really nice, because corporate television and corporate production is, it's an animal. So when you go into the TV factory, when you go into the movie factory, which is what it is, it's a relentless pace, right? Not that my business right now isn't relentless, but I wasn't used to that pace so much at that time. And so it was a lot of stress. So coming into this environment, you get a chance to breathe. And when you're on all the time in a corporate environment, producing constantly, you don't have as much time to take pause and better yourself. You're kind of doing it on the job, right? So what I loved about the job here at OU is it gave me a reason to sit and dissect theory and process and get into the art and the science of both sides. And then it gave me a playground to test the theories, test what worked. And then it gave me the student body to be able to, learn how to communicate better with people, to get what's in your head out, right? And then the students would come along on that journey and we would learn together. Technology is always changing, right? So when I taught, I didn't teach, I did, but I didn't focus so much on the tech because I knew by the time they graduated, the tech was going to be different. By the time they graduated, likely the systems and processes would be fairly different or different shortly after they started their career. So for me, it was all about the foundations. And so it constantly required me to go back to the foundations at every juncture of learning and teaching production. And what that forces you to do is it becomes second nature. And then it forces me to help, or forced me to help students let that become second nature for them too. And so then they have these building blocks to then go off and start creating on their own, knowing that if the tech or when the tech changes, they're going to be prepared because they always have the foundation elements. So whether you're, say, in post-production, whether you're cutting on Avid or cutting on Premiere or cutting on Final Cut or cutting on DaVinci, it doesn't matter. And so for me, and early on, for instance, Final Cut Pro was what I taught here.
That's what you taught me on.
Yeah,
Yep.
And I got really good at that tool. I knew it inside and out. I knew its bugs, I knew how to work around the bugs, and I knew how to use the bugs to my favor. But then tech giant Apple decided to change the software entirely and kind of abandon the pro market for a while, and arguably still to today. So then even I was left stranded, right? Right. But now, because of that and because of what your students will hit in their careers, as long as they have the foundations, which is a lot of fun to always stay and teach and stay and get back to. Now I'm platform agnostic. So when it comes to editing, I don't care what I edit on, I just edit, right? So it's about the finished product. It's always starting at the end and working backwards, right? So that's how I taught, and then I had to face it myself right towards the end of my time here. I was here almost a decade. And it also gave me a good excuse to just learn for the sake of learning, furthering myself for the sake of furthering myself. And so it's a nice, university settings are a good incubator for that. And that's really what the college experience is, right? It's that buffer time. So if you're a traditional student, you come out of high school, college is great for, I think, primarily three things. And that's a buffer before you start your career, to make a lot of mistakes and not on the employer's dime. So you don't make mistakes and get fired, right? So you have that buffer there. Two, learning how to socialize with people you've never met before. So you understand what diverse opinions are and how to work in an environment with diverse opinions and still create something. And then three, networking, right? So you learn to network, and your friends from college oftentimes become your either coworkers in the professional setting, or the people that help you get jobs.
Right.
So that's what college really is, you know. And so yeah, you learn a lot of things. You take the classes, you do that. That's school, right? Anywhere does that. So that's what I always kind of promoted when I was here as well. And yeah, it was great. Yeah.
You mentioned, walking into your first class. I can remember, first thing I want to say is, you inspired me actually to come back here and to do that. I don't know if I ever talked. We talk a lot, but I don't know if I ever told you that. But I can remember walking into my first class last year to teach.
Oh yeah.
And
it's terrifying.
Yeah, and it's just like,
yeah.
Oh gosh, you know, and it's like, it doesn't, even knowing what you know.
Yeah.
Trying to communicate that and making sure that they're absorbing in a manner that that you want them to, but it's public speaking.
It's a nightmare. Yeah. Well, it's a nightmare for introverts, especially when I consider myself an editor first. But the thing that's beautiful about it is the fear of, and I think the fear for me was not having the answer. I had to come to terms with that, right? And that's okay. And so the idea is being sincere, and if you don't have an answer, assuring the person you'll either find an answer or you'll teach them how to find it.
Right.
And that was really one of the things, if you remember in class, that I was big on, was learning where to find it, because it's going to change. I'm not going to be there to give you an answer.
Right.
But it also gives people in the instructor position or in a teaching role the great cause to try to stay 2 steps ahead. It forces you to get in that habit of learning where things are going and being ahead of it, because those questions are coming.
Right, which has helped you because you actually own a studio in your own business, Bear Media.
Bear Media Services.
Bear Media Services. And so you're continuously, because I know I still come to you when it comes to tech and questions of that nature. And so this experience helped you with your business?
Yeah, well, it helped me get the foundations to have the confidence to fly on my own, right? And eventually start to learn that, you learn pretty quickly, I'll figure it out, especially in a university setting, because there are resources here, but they're never enough. So you have to get creative on how you put things together. Well, in the commercial space, that's everything you have to do is that way.
Right.
Literally everything is, this is what I have to work with, what can I make with it? So it's great.
And so talk about Bear Media Services a little bit. I know, like I said, you have a studio here. A lot of people don't realize, there is and I mean, I've been to your studio, super impressed by your studio. Actually, we're going to take a break really quick.
Sure.
We'll come back to that, and then we're going to hit on Wizardfest.
Please, yeah.
So we'll be right back after this message.
Bye-bye. Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right?
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome back to Horizons, a public affairs program produced by Electronic Media. We are here with Brad Bear, one of the organizers of Wizardfest, and we were just talking about your studio here, Mailroom Studios. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I built Mailroom Studios about 5 years ago, and it's basically a turnkey film and television studio that also allows for photographers to play. And so during that time, basically it was me just needing extra space when I started out full-time on my business. And so we had extra space in town. I found one for a good price. I was able to find a landlord that let me modify however I wanted, so I just kind of gut and start over and built this facility. And over the years, I've realized I put a lot of creature comforts in for me because I like the weird and the bizarre. And so, you know, I have a full lighting grid that's all LED controllable and motion control lights. And then I also have a 5,000 lumen projector. So I have a 20-foot wide personal theater with a Bose surround sound and all of that. And that really let me set the stage to start to play with creating environments for people to enjoy. So I decided this fall I started opening up the studio for rentals and things, and people are starting to really enjoy having a unique space. It's kind of a rent your own nightclub or rent your own experience kind of space. And that's kind of what has gotten me really interested in expanding that idea outside the studio.
Which leads to Wizardfest.
Yeah, which kind of is a natural fit for Wizardfest, right? So so Ironton Wizardfest was born out of really just an idea of, can we? You know, and it was, you know, Ironton Wizardfest is a Harry Potter fan festival. It's a fan festival for fans by fans, and again, I like the bizarre and the weird, and I love Potter. I have ever since the late '90s, and it gave me a good reason to play in that fictional universe in a real world setting in a small town, and then see if on a limited budget, very limited budget, can we convert enough of the downtown to create a festival environment that captures the magic. That's the goal of Wizardfest for the fans, the attendees, and the vendors, everybody involved. We want to create an environment, and we did last year because that was the comment. That was the high praise for me. Personally, my takeaway was when people said you captured the magic. And what that means is, to me, we captured the thrill and excitement that someone had when they first read the books or they first watched the movies. You know, we captured a part of that. Maybe not the whole thing, but we captured a part of that. And so to be able to do that with the limited resources that we have it's pretty phenomenal. And the way that we did that was to really translate Appalachian culture, Appalachian traditional fall festivals that we had when we were kids growing up, and wrap that all in the Wizarding world, the Potterverse kind of theme, so that those fans could come here and experience what we did as kids in just a traditional fall festival in that environment, but then kind of expand it. And then, of course, I like the weird things, and Potter lets you do that. And we learned early on people wanted animals, and that was kind of shocking. It's like, okay, they want three things. They want to be able to be sorted into houses. They want their favorite drink from the books, and then they want animals. So the sorting into houses, that's easy enough. It took us a month to figure out how to make and develop the recipe for our own butter brew, which is on par with anything you'll find out there. It's better. And then the animal part, how do you, rather than just horses and pigs and sheep, you know?
Right.
How do we get the exotic animals? Well, thank God that a couple of years ago, the Barker family owns or started a exotic petting zoo and exotic animal farm. So they have llamas and lemurs and monkeys and all of this stuff. So we hired them to come in, so then we have exotic animals, and then we stretched across the river to Gary Bussa that is Discovery's Entertainment, and he does a show with reptiles and so you got snakes and lizards, and you have tarantulas and all these things. So we were able to bring all these exotic animals in. Then we reached out to the Ohio Wildlife Foundation, because apparently that was, having camels, lemurs on the streets of Ironton isn't enough. So we reached out to the the Ohio Wildlife Sanctuary, and they brought in live owls, so they're going to bring those in. We're going to extend that to 2 days this year.
Yeah, live owls are a big deal, especially in the Potterverse.
Exactly.
And everything.
Exactly. So this year, some of the new things that you're going to see, we have gotten a hold of the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Lego users group. So it's a super group of they're amateurs, but they should be pro. I think they're technically could be arguably pro Lego builders. So they're bringing in their 10-foot by 5-foot Biltmore estate. They call it Brickmore. They're bringing in a 7-foot by 7-foot Potter Quidditch pitch with 1,000 minifigs. They're bringing in a Hogwarts train that they haven't finished yet. It'll debut at Wizardfest. And so the Hogwarts Express is an oversized Lego build with all the minifigs in it that's going to circle.
Very nice.
Then they're going to have interactive exhibits for the kids. We took out a lot of extra charge things this year that we didn't just see, that we just didn't see. We were learning how to build a festival.
Right.
So when you get a ticket to the festival and come in, you're not paying extra for the inflatables. So your kids can bounce on the inflatables all they want. They're going to be there. The Barker Farm, there's no extra expense. There wasn't last year, unless you want to feed the animals, and that's really a control mechanism to make sure that the animals don't eat too much.
Right.
So that's like $1 for a cup of food if you want to feed them, but you can pet them and have photos with them. That's all included. We have a replica of the flying car from the second Harry Potter film. We had it last year, but it was a pay to have a photo with it. This year, all included. So you show up, you want as many photos as you want with it, that's fine. And the big addition this year is completely new to us in dealing with celebrities. We're bringing in 3 actors from the Harry Potter movies. So we're going to bring in Chris Rankin, who played Percy Weasley.
Right.
And then we're bringing in James Payton, who played Frank Longbottom, and we're bringing in Walls Hammond, who played an R in the Fantastic Beasts series. And Frank and James and Walls, although they're not overly known as actors in the Potterverse, they're definitely recognizable. But they do this fun improv show that they've created, and they're going to do it on Sunday, and it's kind of the Harry Potter universe meets the Fantastic Beasts universe, and kind of how that clashes, and so they play that on stage. And then on Saturday, Chris Rankin's going to do a Q&A, so that's included too. And then of course there's the autographs and photographs that you can get with them, but that'll cost a little bit extra to help us offset our costs, because we're flying them in from London.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say that's an ordeal just to bring in the actors.
To
this area,
it's
and
trying to organize that all, and then trying to explain that we're 2 hours away from an airport that that really services international. We have the Huntington Airport, but the problem is you have to go through the international process, then you have to get into a domestic process. So to make it easier for them, we have them fly in. We're going to fly them into Columbus and go pick them up and drive them.
And you have like other little things going on too, and I say little things,
lots
but
of
like
things, yeah.
all these activities. I mean, you got broom making classes that are going on, right?
Yeah. So we again want to bring in Appalachian culture elements, and also with the Potter theme. So we have a blacksmith doing demonstrations. We're going to have live coffee roasting all day from a coffee roaster that's here local. And then we have broom making demonstrations going on, and we're working on the broom making workshop. So that's a little extra charge because it's so expensive.
Well, of course.
But so you can make your own Potter-like broom or witchy broom. Then we also have
You're going to have wand dueling? Did I
yeah,
see
so
that
there's
right?
the wand dueling show. So in the Ronet, so we've taken over the Ronet. We hung 28,000 LED lights in the ceiling. We made all of our own silver curtains, and so we fly about 300 yards of silver on the walls, and then I light it, which would be great if we can get your students involved in learning how to DMX and light a show like that. But then that's our main stage. So that's where the wand dueling happens. That's where the reptile show will happen. That's where our potion show will happen. The potion's like a big chemistry show.
Yeah.
So the potion show will happen there. The Saturday night, that's where the Wizard's Ball is hosted.
Yes, the Wizard's Ball.
Yeah. So the Wizard's Ball is a separately ticketed event. It's the adults only party. So it's the biggest nerd party in the tri-state. And so we're going to have an 11-piece jazz band, so it's going to be a flapper style. So 11-piece jazz band coming in. We have, everybody's going to have table seating this year. We didn't do that last year. So we're capping attendance at 250. There's some tickets left, so get on IrontonWizardfest.com and get your tickets. So the Wizard's Ball will also feature an amazing dessert array. So we have an 8-foot snake as made of bundt cakes. That's going to be the centerpiece. And we have pumpkin pasties and treacle tarts and chocolate frogs. Then we have traditional British fare, so bangers and mash, things like that. And then we also are serving a vegan option as well. So I learned there are a lot of vegans. Are you vegan?
I am vegan.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, then, so like this, I didn't know that. part of the learning curve. I didn't realize how many vegans were coming to the festival. There are two groups of people that I were aware of obtusely, or kind of just in the periphery. I knew that I needed to make accommodations because we want to include everybody. We want everybody to feel welcome. And I failed miserably on the vegan front, and I failed miserably, I think, ultimately on accessibility. So this year, and yeah, we'll talk about that first. So the vegan front, when I learned how many vegans were coming, I found a vegan food vendor. So there's actually a vegan food truck that's going to be there, and then also in the Wizard's Ball we'll have a vegan option as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that's, I'm not a vegan, so it's not on my radar, really.
It's not on a lot of people's. Accessibility. Let's touch on that really quick. We're going to have to wrap shortly, but
so many people came, especially kids. There were a lot of kids in wheelchairs and had accessibility issues, and we had a lot of adults. And this year, we knew coming out of it last year, it's like we had to do better. And during the festival, I sat with some of the parents and that had kids in chairs, and I was like, how can we make this better? And what are your experiences? And they were very forthcoming. And so this year, I knew I was going to buy a bunch of ramps to transition, because half of this festival's inside. We're in the City Building, the Ronay, and then the Staley's Building. And then the other half of it's outside in large event tents this year and on the streets. So like Quidditch is out on the streets and stuff like that. And but when I put up my fence lines, I'm going to break accessibility. So we have the curb cuts for wheelchairs, and some people came in beds, completely horizontal. They came to the festival. I was like, that's amazing. And so when you go down the sidewalk, I'm going to have a fence line, and it's going to break the accessibility. So I needed to ramp each of the curb, because that 4 inches is incredible for somebody with an accessibility issue.
Yes.
Nothing for us, right?
Right.
But I knew I needed a ramp, a safe ramp to make that transition. I needed many of them. And I went to Facebook, just on my personal page, and I was like, this is what I'm trying to do. Anybody want to help me out? They're going to cost X amount of dollars. Tri-State Mobility helped quite a bit in the cost. And so then, like, the Community Action Organization and I'm going to butcher this, but Ashland Neuroscience, and I'm going to put the mobility sponsors on the website soon, because I'm blanking, but Tri-State Mobility and some other folks. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But they we'll cut that out. They stepped up, and within 2.5 hours, I had full funding for 7 ramps. River Cities Wireless went out and bought one and then just brought it. But that was, so now we have 7 ramps that we donate to the city, so anybody having a festival in town from here on out can accommodate that curb jump when they break the line for their own festivals.
Love that idea. I love the fact that you did that. So we're going to have to close the show.
Sure.
But the website is?
IrontonWizardfest.com.
And the dates are?
November 9th and 10th. You can get the schedule, you can get tickets, all on Ironton Wizardfest. Yep.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Take care.
If you have any questions or comments, please email us at electronicmedia@ohio.edu. Thanks for watching today. Check out Ironton Wizardfest. I promise you, this is the second year. It's bigger and better than last year. Have a great day, folks.